Face Holographic has long since been loading for a big move, and unless the stock markets top out first, it might be in for quite a ride to the upside. Normally I stay away from low liquidity stocks like this. However, when worthy exceptions arise, I'm not one to turn them down. Starvolt from last year is a great example of such strong exception, a position that ended up doubling my portfolio value. Starvolt's graph was one of the strongest charts I had ever seen up until that point, and within a few weeks after I had proclaimed that, the stock rallied by 500%. Now we might have another case in Face Holographic, yet with an emphasis on might. Now, I know little to nothing about the company itself. In fact, I know absolutely nothing about them, but neither do I need to, for with technical analysis we're dealing with market psychology and its expectations, greed versus fear, that are all visually represented on the charts. Many people who don't know the first thing about technical analysis believe it to be voodoo, and I can equally hear a bunch of people go, yeah, but there is no trading volume in Face Holographic, hence you can't do shit. Well, to those people I'm sorry to quote Obama, for yes we can. We just apply bigger time frames, the weekly and monthly charts alike, to single out the noise. So let's then take a good look at why this company appeals to me. But first, do note that nothing of what I say is financial advice, not a single word. I'm presenting my own thoughts and conclusions only. And as always, if you appreciate this episode and if it helps you bring clarity to what's going on in Face Holographic, then please return the favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons. And more importantly, share this episode with others who may benefit from hearing this too. For apart from actual viewer numbers, your liking and not liking is my barometer to knowing what types of episodes to produce more of and what types that evoke less interest. So without further ado, let's move on to the next phase, the technicals. Starting on the monthly chart, Face Holographic is currently trading at the very bottom of a 6-year-long accumulation phase. And not only that, it is back to similar levels as its January 2014 IPO peak. Technical analysis is counter to what many people erroneously believe, not an attempt at certainty. However, what I can say with certainty just from looking at the charts is that there are a lot of boredom and frustration involved to anyone who's bought in at any time during this accumulation phase, whether you bought here, 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 or here. Either you've lost quite a deal of money, or else you've been in for quite a deal of tedious waiting, or more likely you're in for both. But rest assured, for the graph is beginning to look rather interesting in my opinion, and there are two reasons for that. First of all, this long sideways range is, until proven otherwise, an accumulation range. And in such ranges, the buyers and sellers take turns at boring each other until the point where there are hardly any buyers or sellers left. This we can determine from the gradually shrinking trading volumes, which is textbook behavior the further into any formation you go. Now, the longer an accumulation phase lasts, the stronger the ultimate move tends to become. Tesla is a prime example of this, in which the price moved sideways in a dreadfully moral killer of a range for 6 years straight, before finally taking off by 2,400% in just a year and a half, or 24 times your investment. In this sense, having spent the last 6 years fueling the possible phase rocket, this significantly increases the chances of taking the price further than had the accumulation lasted only for a year or two. My second argument to back up this claim is the fact that the monthly RSI has remained impressively strong throughout. It's traded well within a bullish red RSI channel, and to those of you who may not be familiar with this RSI talk, I strongly advise you to watch the extensive RSI trilogy on this channel. It will change everything you thought you knew on trading. One ring to rule them all. RSI signals on the monthly chart are rare. In fact, they're so rare that I don't usually bother to even look for them. In Phase Holographic's case, however, we're in for quite an exception. The previous 2 times we were given a lower bullish red signal, the price immediately took off by 950 and 200% respectively. And by immediately, I mean it didn't go about wasting anyone's time. Signal, boom, and off we went. And this here is not a one-off for Phase alone. No, it's one of the things that makes these RSI strategies so powerful. So, when then do we buy? Yeah, when do we buy? First of all, just because Phase Holographic is beginning to look interesting doesn't mean we simply throw ourselves on the buying button. No, we need a technical breakout, something that sets off a spark, a trigger. If not, we might find ourselves stuck in another position that takes us literally nowhere. For just because things are beginning to look interesting technically doesn't mean they already are. Not yet. It just means that if things were to play out the way we hope we will be able to catch a potentially very strong move in the bud. If we zoom in from the monthly and onto the weekly chart, we quickly detect a rather reliable diagonal resistance line, one that has had 2 failed breakout attempts already, typically referred to as fakeouts. The previous time Phase broke out of its diagonal resistance, the price took off by 200%. That breakout took place in January-February of 2019. This buy was in turn confirmed by the lower bullish red RSI buy signal, but with the only difference being that the RSI was 1 to 2 months ahead of it. It detected the move at the very bottom before the breakout had in fact occurred. And now to the juicy part, for we did in fact get a lower bullish red RSI buy signal on the monthly in March this year, upon which the price immediately generated a maximum of 55% profits before retracing back again. The buy signal is still intact and may very well indicate a soon-to-come breakout from this long stretching diagonal resistance. Now, we could base an entire trade on the RSI itself, however, given how close we are to the diagonal resistance line, I personally preferred a breakout as a second line of confirmation. This would amount to even lower risk. At the moment, Phase Holographic is trading right at the accumulation support, yet from experience it is by no means uncommon for a final accumulation phase stage to fake out to the downside, as a final blow to the confidence of the patient before taking off brutally and fast in the other direction, as in upwards. Fingerprint cards is a prime example of this, and one that I keep returning to, and one in which I myself was tricked into selling back in the days when I was still subject to market feints like those. Today though, I know better, and my only message is that you shouldn't necessarily feel discouraged from any initial break below this accumulation range. Now, such break downwards could still mean that the upside is and will remain absent, that Phase won't shoot for the moon. And in such case, you won't suffer, as we're awaiting technical confirmation prior to investing anyway. If the price were to fake out downwards, I'd expect it to at least retest the IPO high at 18 kroner, as it on its own makes up for an important technical support. It might even, should it be in a particularly nasty mood, go down as far as to 15 kroner. But once it finds its way back into the accumulation range and above this diagonal resistance, that's the technical confirmation we're looking for. So to be perfectly clear, we are not looking to buy at any point below the accumulation phase, no matter how tempting it might be, and for the simple reason that it may just not recover at all. If it does, on the other hand, then prepare for a fast and aggressive move, one that I don't expect to stop at 60 or 70 this time around. So if things pan out, how high could we expect the stock to go? I'm sure many of you have done your fundamental analysis and calculated how much the stock price should trade at if this, that or the other should occur. And I'm equally certain that many of you disagree with the current price and have done so for many years already. When you visit stock forums online, any stock forum, they tend to be predominantly ruled by ignorance. It's like a troll forest and reason enough for me to never set foot there. The majority tends to not even have the faintest idea of how markets behave, and time and again you will see people whining and complaining. But here's the thing, and this may come as a blow to some people out there, but that's the market. The market is jumpy, it's irrational and stupid, and the sooner people can adapt to the reality, the better they'll do. Excuses and playing the blame game is for losers, whether on the stock market or in real life. In this sense, as the price in many people's opinion is suppressed and trading below fair value, that pendulum can swiftly swing to the other end, and often does whenever we see breakouts from long accumulations. Again, Tesla is a prime example of this, as it at its recent peak was worth as much as Volkswagen, Daimler, General Motors, BMW, Honda, Ford, Fiat Chrysler and Hyundai together, despite making peanuts in comparison. But then, all of a sudden, one Tesla cult follower after the other had no issue whatsoever with the company having a PE ratio of 1300. For then, when the stock price was skewed in their favor, they defended its mentally insane valuation with one argument weirder than the other. So what's my point with this? Well, my point is this. If or when Phase Holographic were to get a technical breakout, both from this diagonal line but in particular from the resistance level of the accumulation phase, whatever fair value numbers you may have come to from mere fundamental calculations may be dwarfed due to human nature. Greed will kick in, and if it were to coincide with a final secular market blow-off move before the crash of a lifetime, then we could expect some serious returns. However, with that said, if the general stock markets were to collapse before Phase gets its chance to shine, then don't for a second expect any miracles, for it'll go down with the ship like everything else. Not because it's necessarily worth less per se, but because people will be inflicted with fear, and fearful people don't invest, they panic and stuff the money in their mattresses. I'll throw my numbers out straight. If things pan out, we could be looking at prices of 280 kroner or more. Yes, or more. And such move could very well occur within 18 months from its technical breakout point. If we eventually were to get there, I'll reveal the method behind it in full, and never again can anyone justly claim technical analysis to be hocus pocus. That was all for now. Thank you and goodbye.